and welcome to the CypressTextiles Crochet Learning Portal Level 1. This Shaveless Callista Cutie Pie is going to be teaching us how to work single crochet back and forth. So let's get started. I've got 5, 6, 7, 8. So now to work back and forth, you're going to turn your work counterclockwise. So if you look at it from above, you're going to turn your work counterclockwise, and you want to always turn your work counterclockwise no matter what. And what that's going to do is, I'll show you what happens if you turn it clockwise. So you finished your here and you're going to turn it. So I'm looking at it from above and I'm going to turn it clockwise. So what you're going to end up with is your tail, your working yarn, is going to come behind your hook up the side of your piece. And what you don't want is to have your leading yarn, you're carrying up the side of your piece, because it's not going to be as neat of a side. So I'm going to put it back where I was. So here I am, and I'm ready to, from above, turn the piece counterclockwise. And now my working yarn is in front of my piece and ready to go. Okay, so whenever you work your first single crochet, you have your working yarn here ready to be used, and you can chain up, you can chain one, okay, and that's gonna get you to your height of your single crochet. And most patterns, I would say all patterns basically, will have you chain up to start a row of single crochet. And honestly, I don't do it because I feel like it makes a neater edge on your piece when you don't chain up. But you can chain up, and I'll show you how that looks, and then I'll pull it out, and then I'll show you how it looks when you don't chain up. So when you're working into your stitch, you want to make sure that you don't just go into the front loop or the back loop only. Okay, so you want to make sure that you don't just go through the back loop only, or get in there and go through just this loop. You don't want to do that. You want to go through, unless the pattern calls for it later on, you might have that, but you're going to go through both parts of this V, and that's called going through both loops. Then pull up a loop and draw the yarn through both of the loops on your hook. Okay, and that makes your single crochet. So you can see how your singles look from the back, and then the ones that are looking from the front. And so I'm just going to go across here, working into all these stitches, and this is how you would work back and forth. You can make a scarf at this point, or you can make a skinny few stitches and make like a statement necklace. So even now you could stop and just add some chain to either side and have a cute statement necklace. So you can make projects even at this stage, even not knowing much about crochet. Okay, so now I'm at the end, and of course, looking from above, I'm going to turn counterclockwise like always, and I'm going to chain up, because like I said, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you chain up versus how I do it without chaining up. Okay, and this is the same thing. So just don't skip over your first stitch. Your first stitch is the first one. You can see where the bumps of these stitches are. There. You're working in between. You're working into these two loops from the top of your single crochet. So where you put your hook to, don't accidentally go in here. Just make sure that where you put your hook is exactly through those two loops. And there's loops back here that you might get confused and go through. If you insert your hook in the wrong place, then it's going to make a stitch that's further down. So you just need to make sure that you grab just those two loops from the little V. All right, and this last stitch here, don't forget about that one. There you go. All right, and that's it. So that's how you're gonna look whenever you're working back and forth. And if you can see, this little loop right here, that is your turning chain. Okay, so here's how it looks after 5 rows have been worked. And you can see it kind of alternates between these front facing, back facing, front, back, and front. And that's because your work has a right side and a wrong side typically. So you would say that the front of these single crochet stitches is considered the right side of your work. So then when you turn it over, this would be the back, because your first row is facing the back now, and so this is the wrong side of your piece. And it might be different depending on whatever pattern you're working, but you can see that this looks more like it would be the front side versus this looks more like it would be the back side, because it shows you more of the back side of your single crochet stitches. And also because your starting chain here at the bottom is more toward the front of your work, and that's like a neater edge than, say, this side, where you can see the starting chain is at the back of the work. Well, now that it's facing the wrong side. So this is not as neat, nice and neat of an edge as this one is. So this would be the front of your piece. So also make sure to not accidentally work into your turning chain. So you might think that this looks like a tiny stitch there, but that's actually your turning chain. Okay, so if your piece is all of a sudden increasing and you started with 8 stitches and now you have like 12, you might be increasing accidentally by thinking that this is a single crochet, since you see the V right there, but actually that's just your turning chain whenever you made your little chain in the beginning. So when you turn, make your 1 turning chain, and then this is your first stitch that you're going to work into. And the turning chain does not count as a stitch. It's just to get you to the height of a single crochet. Okay, so then you would work across like so, and just don't forget, you got to keep count of your stitches too if you want to. So you start with 8, and so you should always have 8 if there's, no reason to have more or less. So in a pattern, it might eventually call for you to have more or less stitches as you go, but for this purpose, you want to have 8 on every row. So then I'll do a little count, and I've got 4, 8. Okay, so I haven't increased or decreased, but it would be really easy to accidentally work into that little spot right there as if it were a single crochet to work into, but it's not. So now you can see a little bit how the edges look whenever you chain up. And so now I'm going to make a little sample piece off camera, and I'm going to show you how these 2 pieces compare whenever you make that 1 chain, when you turn and you make your 1 chain, versus not chaining at all and just going straight into your first stitch. So that's how I do it. So I'll show you how it looks. That's how I would do my work. Okay, so here's how it's coming so far without chaining up at the sides. So let me just work 1 row so that you can see where to work into and what's the difference between this way and chaining up as you go. Okay, so I'm going to turn counterclockwise, and you can see the working yarn is kind of in a position to where I can work around it like that. So you're going to, whenever you work into your stitch, you're not chaining, right? So you're just going to work exactly over this yarn and into your V. So you're trapping your working yarn. And make sure that you're not just working using the tapered part of your hook. If this is the type of hook you're using, just go ahead and get all the way onto the widest part, the thickest part, okay? And then pull up your loop and draw the yarn through 2 loops on the hook. So you can tell that this front part of the stitch is kind of leaning downwards, and that's because we didn't chain up. But it's okay, once you work into it, it stands up tall. So now I'm going to just work across really quickly to the other side so you can see what I mean when I say it slants down. Okay. All right, so this is the first stitch of the previous round. So you can see that the top of the V kind of slants downward because we don't chain up. So that's what you're going to work into for your final stitch of your row. And now you can see there's no little chain up to get confused to work into by mistake because we didn't do any chain up at all. And you can kind of look back in the video at where I showed you the point where there was that little, I'll just show you, there was that little V on the side, and that's from chaining up, but you don't get that whenever you don't chain up. So there's the difference there. You can see it goes straight from, I'll line up the rows so you can see. So here is the side. Here's the 2 stitches lined up. And you can see the top of the stitch, the horizontal bar from the top of the stitch, and there's that one. And this one has a chain up. So you can see that V from the chain up, and this one doesn't. So it goes straight into the next stitch. Okay, because here's the next stitch there. Here's the next stitch. And there's a chain up, and there's no chain there. All right, and I don't chain up on the single crochet. And on the, I actually do it a lot differently whenever I turn and work a new row. But you can definitely just do whatever method you prefer. So here's how my piece looks with no chaining up, and here's how the side of it looks there. It's pretty straight, and that's why I like it. And here is the piece with the chains. All right, and it has a scallop thing going on. Now, once you make your border on your piece, you're not gonna see the scallop. But let's say you wanted to make this into a scarf or something with no border, then you might be bugged by the fact that it has a scallop, or you might consider it a design feature. So honestly, it's just your preference. So that's how it looks whenever you chain up, because the chain up, you're not working into it, so it creates that little dip in the side. And the piece without the chaining up, and the side just kind of goes straight up. Okay, so just a little difference there. You can work it both ways to kind of see which you prefer, but I don't chain up for a single crochet. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and the next video we're going to learn how to work the single crochet in the round. So I'll see you then. Happy crafting, y'all.